have public comment, and this is for anything not on the agenda. Is there anybody who has public comment for anything not on the agenda? If not, we'll go ahead with the agenda. We're gonna talk about first the Dan Kent project.
Laverne Kent project.
Laverne Kent.
Laverne Kent. Sorry.
I've got a drawing here if you guys wanna see it. I think it's gonna make a lot of difference.
Well, here, let him present real quick what he plans on doing there, give us an idea what we're heading up into.
It's you, Earl.
How much you wanna do?
You got
Okay,
the
so such
spotlight.
public speakers.
I just want to put a sawmill on my property and have room to grow.
You wanna put what on your property?
Sawmill,
A sawmill, okay.
And you're on Mouch Road.
yes, sir.
And you're ag, right?
I am ag.
Okay.
We're at on Mouch Road.
Kind of
Right on the corner.
kind of elaborate a little more on that with these guys. You're gonna, it's not a hobby sawmill. It's
No.
a sawmill to make money with, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you'll have semis coming in,
Yes, sir.
semis going out.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just so these guys understand what you're,
Yep.
okay.
You get your phone leaking?
All these years,
Oh, Daniel's phone's leaking.
tell you, put your phone on. Did you guys hear that?
Yeah, calls me.
Yeah, turn your phone off, everybody. Turn mine on.
I know I left it.
Which corner on Mouch Road? There's three
Straight
of them.
north of your place, Craig.
Hmm?
Straight north of your place.
You up there where they got the
Here's
hogs
a
and the
drawing.
goats?
Cross the road.
Across the road.
Okay,
Craig, you're down here.
yeah.
He's up here.
Right here.
Pretty much, but yeah.
Baker Mouch. Mouch does a zigzag there.
Mhm.
He's right in that corner there.
You're the one that's putting
Can
the
you
pole
point
barn
to
up
that
over
map?
there?
Matt behind me?
Yeah,
I can. You see where I'm at? Right here.
so everybody sees.
Am I correct?
Right
That look right?
Yes, sir.
That's an old one. Luana Dobby is the owner.
Yeah, the key is if it's zone agricultural, you can pretty much do what you want in agriculture.
Well, no, I got a thing right here, agricultural district. Principal uses permitted, any building shall be erected except for uses listed in section 601. Section 601, uses allowed by special approval. 1, commercial uses, 2, industrial uses.
Okay, and this is commercial.
This would be commercial and/or / industrial, either or, we can be treated the same. So this would be a use allowed by special approval. Special approval requires notification to landowners around you with a 15-day notice and publication, and then we go through the special approval process, the hearing itself.
And that's within 300 feet, correct?
Everyone within 300 feet, but it is a special approval, so it does have to be published in the paper.
Okay,
And it has to be published in the paper 15 days prior to our hearing, which means if I hustled and got it into the paper as soon as possible, our hearing will be October 24th.
okay, so for the purpose of tonight's meeting, it's, you know, it's advisory, we can't do anything until.
Well, no, we need to, I just wanted everyone on the same page here.
Right, right.
And make sure they get their paperwork in within 15 days. The ordinance says they have to have their paperwork in within 15 days of the hearing. I have to move much sooner than that to get it in the paper in time. So that 15 days before the hearing, it would mean he needs to get all his paperwork to Dave by the 10th of October. But I need to move this week on it to get it in the paper in time.
See, we never did a zoning permit, did we? Never filled one out? Okay.
Yeah.
We can fill one out together
Okay.
and get that done. That only takes a few minutes.
Okay. The 300 feet doesn't mean anything for this?
No, that's just the people get personal letters within 300 feet.
Well, there's 40 acres there.
You may not have anyone within 300 feet of you that gets a personal letter.
It would go from the outside perimeter of his property to the next
Yeah,
property.
that's generally I do is the perimeter of the property.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking maybe 2 people will get letters.
Which would be our mother and my
And-
cousin Sean, so there's no.
Yeah. I'm just
I mean,
following the
we're trying
rules.
to, I know, but we're trying to do this quick too. We want the building up for winter and
Mm-hmm.
we're not gonna put the building up if we can't put a sawmill in there.
Yeah,
And
yep, I
the
understand.
agricultural thing is kinda cloudy and hazy when it comes to all that and
No, right now we do it legal beagle by the ordinance and everything else, and we're all legal beagle all the way down the line. And I hate have to wait to the 24th, but the dang paper comes out on Wednesdays and it has to be that paper. And I have to have it in by Friday in order to make my dates. So, I can have something in the paper by this Friday to make it all legal beagle, but I was checking my calendar and the earliest I could pull it off is the 24th of October. I tried moving it a week ahead of time, but I can't get into this week's paper now. I'd have to submit the stuff last Thursday.
Once that's submitted, Gordon, when's the next planning commission meeting?
The next planning commission meeting is October 10th. That meeting's already full.
Okay. Is there a possibility of having a special meeting?
I have to publish. The
Oh,
earliest I can publish.
all right.
Yeah. Now, that 24th is, that's it. I mean, that's the date available if I can get it into the paper by this Friday.
Okay, what do I have to have done? What is my obligation?
Get the zoning permit applied for and get the special land use provisions answered. I'll get with Dave after me to make sure you have the right information you need. It's pretty
Okay.
easy.
Okay,
It won't be hard for you.
okay.
And Gordon, and maybe Phil, you have some insight on this. When we have a special meeting, typically we ask the applicant to pay per diems, which is nothing for the meeting. Is that the way they've done it in the past?
No, we haven't.
Okay, do you have a problem with that?
I do not unless we do other things during the meeting.
Correct, it has to be dedicated to
Mhm,
that,
mhm.
just like this one is. for the-
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking, Robert here is gonna wanna have a hearing too. And I'm gonna get that in the paper. His earliest date would also be the 24th, so we may be doing both of them on the 24th, which I
Okay.
don't have a problem with either.
And that's a regular meeting, so that's,
Well, no, it ain't a regular meeting, it's just an extra meeting. We have extra meetings in our budget, because we
Okay.
knew we were gonna run into some of this. We have our planning part, which we're working on the master plan and the zoning ordinance and all that. Then we have the zoning part, which is our other job of hearing the people as they come in, applications and stuff like that,
so we have a meeting on the 10th and.
We have a meeting on the 10th
Okay.
with
That's-
NEMCOG for the master plan.
Right,
I don't wanna put anything else on that
no,
meeting.
that's a long meeting, no,
Yeah.
that's a long meeting. Okay,
So, but I got my calendar up and everything, and the 24th is the earliest I could get the next date available for a special use.
I got a question, on the special use, notify the people within the 300 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Are those the people who come in and say yay or nay?
They come in and express their opinion.
that's exactly
Express their
right.
opinion and the ultimate decision rests on you.
We are the yay nayers.
If somebody else is over 300 feet, does that matter?
We're supposed to weight the closest neighbors heavier, but that's why we put it in the paper.
But the
Someone on the
final
other side.
decision, the final decision rests on you guys.
Yeah, it's not crowd control or mob mentality or anything
No,
like that.
it's all about transparency.
Right.
Yeah, it's all
Okay.
about transparency
I
and all
gotcha.
about, if you follow the rules in the book and you have all the rules in the book covered, then you're in, no matter how many people hate you.
So if he went ahead and built his building prior to the approval of the sawmill process, is there an issue with that?
Only issue is if something came up and we had to shoot it down, he might be out of building or have an extra building laying around. But, that's his own risk. But, he's looking at, I don't foresee, I don't know, you may be able to put together a building and have a house going and everything within a month. I don't know.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
It might be a dumb question. So the 300 feet, which I know that you're not gonna pick on, is that to somebody else's property or is that to somebody else's residence?
Property line.
I just go to
Property line.
property, yeah, yeah.
And they get a letter or the?
Yeah, I will send them a letter, yeah.
You send them a letter?
Just, it's just a personal invitation to come to the hearing.
Okay, okay.
Just to let them know what you're planning
Yeah,
on doing.
you can't have, yeah, that's right in the law, it says everyone within 300 feet gets a personal invitation to the
Okay.
meeting.
and if none of them show up, then
I've had meetings where I've sent out 75 and one person showed up.
But even if 75 showed up, you guys have the final decision.
Exactly.
Right, we're just trying to explain to them what's going on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I understand that.
And if you ticked all the boxes that need to be ticked, by law, we have to issue the thing anyways.
And agricultural gives you a lot more flexibility than if
Yeah.
it was R1 or R2. Because then you're talking about special land use and some other things.
Yeah,
But we're not talking about that.
yeah.
Okay.
In the seat I'm in right now, let's do the procedure
Yes,
as
sir.
planned.
That's why I'm here. That's
Yep.
what we
Yep.
wanted to do.
Yep,
Okay.
and that's all your Ts are covered, and everything's covered, and in the future, if you wanna expand a little bit, you're already
That's what we want.
through the door, yep,
That's what we're here for.
okay.
So put your building up at your own risk.
Will you loan us some money?
I got enough going on here.
All right,
Okay, then we
But
have.
I will buy your lumber. Get that up and running, I need lumber.
so, you get with Dave,
Alright.
get all this sorted out, and make sure we're all,
Yeah, you can call me tomorrow, or whatever you wanna
Hunky-dory.
do.
I'm off all day tomorrow.
Okay. We can get together, we'll do the permit,
Okay.
get all the stuff on there.
yeah, I'll need a permit number before publication.
Yes, I can give you one, I can pull that tonight.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
thanks for coming in. It's so much easier
Before
doing
somebody
it this
changes their
way.
mind.
Okay,
All
so
right, thank you.
Thank you.
the second thing added to the agenda was a board ordinance that we want to discuss.
Yes, I got a quick email from Lindsay that said the board tasks the planning commission with writing a short-term rental ordinance. And she gave me a copy of a couple of ordinances. I'm gonna have her send them to me digitally, so I can get them out. I've done some research into this. I guess my personal feeling right now is, what are we legislating? I'll be at the township board meeting on Wednesday. Get a little more information on this.
I think we also had tiny homes in that as well. That was the request.
Oh, I have not seen the minutes yet.
It's a dual request.
I have not seen the
Well,
minutes.
they're two different things, so.
Yes, they are.
It's a dual request in and of itself that we want separate.
Okay, they're separate.
So do you have copies of what we've got to be looking at here, or what?
Well, this is just example, and I've looked at them. These are just a couple example ordinances other communities have passed. MSU has a really nice layout on short-term rentals. Basically, if you're gonna regulate, here's what you need to look at, what you're regulating, and here's some procedures and steps and stuff. We'll want to definitely review that too.
Yep.
I just wanted to get you guys in the group and get you in the same page here as we move forward. I will go to my Wednesday night meeting and get more direction of what the board's trying to think and put into our heads.
It's Wednesday at what time?
6
6 o'clock.
Where at?
right here.
Right there, yeah.
Wednesday, 6 o'clock.
I'm sure Dan and I will be here. So, not a problem.
Because that's gonna directly affect me.
May or may not, depending on when the ordinance goes into effect.
Yeah. And Phil, I watched the meeting, thanks to Craig recording it, and that came up at the last meeting, but essentially the state has determined, although I was told by NEMCOG, they were here last time, we should have some rules of the road, is what we call it in finance, for, short-term rentals, and essentially the state has said, and it passed one house but not the other house, but essentially if it's less than 30 days, there's very little a community can do about it. Once it's over 30 days, then you're talking about evicting people and that kind of stuff. But if it's under 30 days, and I, full disclosure, I had 4 rentals, I have 1 now. The VRBOs have been doing this for 20 years, and as I've explained to the board before, it's pretty much self-regulating, because you get rated by VRBO, and if you're rated poorly, nobody's gonna rent from you, and they'll take you off the listing. So I've got a lot of insight, and at that meeting I'll abstain from voting because I do have a conflict of interest. So.
I don't think you do. I was thinking about that earlier.
Really?
Yeah, a conflict of interest would be it directly affects you financially, or immediate family, that kind of thing.
Well, if his verbo's in the township, then that's conflict.
Well, technically, everyone is a verbal in the township. If,
But just like some of this one here that I'm looking at, it's basically singling out an individual, the actual VRBOs or the Airbnb.
yeah,
If there's gonna be a registration required, it should include bed and breakfasts, campgrounds, motels, hotels. They shouldn't, that's a short-term rental too. That's about as short as you get.
Technically,
In
yeah.
resorts.
yeah, so yeah, we
So
need to
it should
keep an eye on
include
that.
everyone.
Well, then what I'll
Other
do,
than that, don't mess with it.
and what I'll do at the meeting, I'll disclose, and I've been doing this for over 2 decades. I'll disclose a conflict, but I'll potential conflict, but
Because,
I don't
yeah,
think it's a conflict, so,
because Phil is
Yeah, let
also
them
in the
figure it out.
lodging industry,
yeah.
and he'd have the same conflict accordingly. But I think it's only for financial gain, not financial loss,
Okay,
that affects. But yes, it does not hurt to disclose it at the beginning of the meeting.
okay.
We'll table that until, the next meeting,
So,
see Wednesday meeting.
the 10th, we're gonna hold for NEMCOG, right?
Yeah,
And the 24th will be the special meeting,
yes,
and that we can discuss it then.
that would be, we can discuss the ordinance at the time too, it's just a regular meeting.
Okay,
I don't know what he's bringing. He's bringing survey results, I understand. We've done 2 meetings with Denise about the
Right.
zoning. He's bringing the master plan stuff over and getting started on that part.
right, and that takes priority.
I meant, yeah, and I don't know how long that meeting's gonna last.
The last one was 2 hours, 45 minutes, so.
Yeah, she said that was a short one, so I don't know how long a meeting she goes.
Yeah,
All right,
okay.
now, do we have a case number for Mr. Burlington yet? Can you generate one?
Yeah,
A permit or a case number?
I have a permit, I've got a permit number here, 30, I can give you this here, 00-33-22.
Okay, yeah. Because we always like numbers to assign to things, and then everyone knows we're on the same number.
And what we'll do is just transfer this over using the same record.
Okay, after the meeting, from the last meeting, I went home and thought about this and thought which portions of our ordinance apply to this. And then kinda knocked them down here on a list in our agenda here. And I just wanna make sure we're all on the same page with the laws and everything else as we go through this and what our next steps are for this project. The first thing that occurred to me was the Land Division Act. Now, I believe the township has assigned the land division decisions to our tax assessor, correct? And Alan Berg would be our is our current assessor?
Yes.
All right. And has Alan Berg seen this, or do we know if Alan Berg has
First
seen
time I've
this?
seen it,
Okay,
I don't think he's seen it.
because the Land Division Act has some stuff going on there, depending on when it was last divided and how many divisions are allowed. This is less than 20 acres in size.
Can I throw something in here?
You sure can.
Okay, I do not think the Land Division Act applies to me because I'm not dividing the land. It's one lot.
Okay,
It's one piece of land
Right,
with multiple cabins. I did that as a guide
Okay.
to me and to you guys.
Right, so you're
of-
keeping everything contiguous
I'm
under
keeping-
one
I'm not
tax
se-
ID number.
Exactly, I'm
Right.
not spread,
As
I'm
long
not
as he doesn't
splitting
go
in
over
lots.
the, as long as you don't go over the percentage of square footage versus lot square footage, you're
Exactly.
fine.
Yep.
okay, so we're gonna substitute the word lot for site. Does that sound good?
That's fine.
All right, because that,
Yeah,
Clears
cause
some
this,
confusion
this
right
is an
there.
engineered sealed drawing, but it's not submitted
Okay.
for any land division. It was just a formality to have some kind of a guide to show you guys how I would like to proceed on a site plan.
okay, we're gonna call this, okay, site one, site two, site, all the way up to
We
site
could
eight.
do that, yes.
Okay, all right. And then, yeah, then the Land Division Act portion, because you're not actually dividing the land,
Correct.
would not come into this. We talked about it being split, part of it's zoned industrial, part of it's general residential.
Another reason why I set it up like that, where if down the road, if the property was, I don't plan on selling it, but if down the road, they could be split off later into the vacant lots with the Division Act, or they could be split off into individual single-family homes, and it met all of the requirements. That's why I did the way that I did that.
Okay. Yeah, because you're allowed so many every 10 years.
Well, that's the thing, this has probably been split in the last year already, so that's one.
This parcel?
Well,
I don't think this
Well, that's-
parcel.
that's
maybe that
new.
parcel
It- but
hasn't.
when did it get split? That's the question.
I'm talking when Bill Engelhardt sold it, it got split.
Did it?
But
Not
that's,
that one,
oh, this one didn't?
no.
Okay.
No, this one's been
Okay.
like this for a while.
All right.
Yeah. It all comes back to that magic date of March
All right.
31st, 1997.
But that-
who owned it.
But we're not in the Land Division Act, because we're not splitting it.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's,
I would, I guess from my viewpoint, look at possible division in the future though.
that's why I set that up the way that I did.
Okay. All right. Okay, our next battleground is, not battle,
No, that's fine.
next challenge we have
Okay.
is part of this is zone industrial, part of it's general residential.
I would like to zone that entire piece of property to C1,
To C1.
yes.
Okay,
There's your variance.
do we wanna carry, main variance?
What's a rezoning?
It's a rezoning.
Well,
Yeah.
rezoning, yeah,
Right.
industrial.
We wanna
Well,
probably
okay,
pick up some parcels around it too, if we're gonna go C1. I believe one of the original ideas of the industrial in that whole corner there was for future development of the airport, to have a commercial hub available near the airport, even though that's really not happened.
Right.
But they were setting some property aside there for airport-related industry if they needed it.
well,
Well,
when they
it
fly,
just
when they,
doesn't take in Stacy Weaver. I mean, you can go like this or however you want it, but don't wanna take in the.
Yeah, no, I'm just looking back why they would have done that in the past. Do you remember, Danny?
No, the big thing was is to allow a second junkyard. Billy was there, became a squabble between the second one, the industrial sites. They only had the two in here, one opposing the other, and then the required amount of square footage, I think, was a part of it when you set up your zoning, that you had to have so much set up aside for industrial. So now you're gonna, the only thing I could see, you're gonna have to pick up someplace else and design some kind of industrial, if that was still part of a rule.
Yeah, I don't think
But-
it is. I don't think there's anything that
Then
says
we're-
a certain percentage has to
The only
be.
thing it is, then, it's next, you're gonna move into spot zoning then next time somebody wants something industrial. So you're establishing.
If they're in a non-industrial area,
You're
correct.
establishing a precedent of getting rid of something, but you're gonna have to allow something in the future to create. So I mean, so you gotta think of both while you're doing it. I mean, it's not saying that you wanna get rid of, disallow or allow. It's just, I'm just only bringing up that,
Yeah,
you know, cause what's gonna happen if somebody wants to do industrial?
Well, we have industrial areas set aside that are vacant
Yeah, but
right
there's a
now.
lot of them that's in the swamp too. and they're
I
like-
understand
they're-
that, yes.
Okay, I mean, you have to be realistic.
But
Yeah.
that's individual cases too.
And this one just happens to be surrounded by subdivisions.
Changing the zoning, one thing. With what I'm understanding, my interpretation, the R2 here, as long as you go, I believe it's less than 500, you can go economy efficient dwelling between 240 square foot and 500 square feet. That's in, as it is right now
In R2,
in R2.
okay.
You gotta look at the definitions, that's already allowed. But if you go to the 680, then you've gotta get special approval,
Okay.
okay? And then also, in the industrial, I believe in the industrial, it says things that are allowed. Neighborhood-friendly businesses. There's already, I believe, like a VRBO right there.
Right.
So this, it fits in with the area that's already there. It's friendly to the neighborhood.
If
As far as
what
I'm concerned, then on the, you could run, if you run some of your stuff at, over the, you know, the required square footage, 768, some bigger buildings, and then some that are less than 500, you fit within the zoning as it is.
Okay, then
That-
I'll go with that.
Well, let's,
I don't
That's
wanna-
what my
Yeah,
interpretation, reading
right.
through the zoning, it shows everything right in the current zoning as is.
The only reason why I said C1 was to avoid the special use down the road in the front for a special use requirement for R2. Because we want to do canoe, kayak, ATV rentals, maybe have a general store
You could use the industrial part of that for that.
under special use.
It's still a neighborhood-friendly business.
industrial,
Then I'm liking it the way that it is.
That's the way I see it.
yeah.
If
Industrial,
that's
that's
about- yeah, 'cause it's already
neighborhood-oriented
split
business,
half and
yeah.
half.
Yeah,
Right,
and then you fit into everything without changing anything.
then I'm game for that.
Yeah.
I got a hole in the ground, I'm ready to go.
Okay, you guys are getting ahead of me here. I was just
How
looking
many
at,
wells do you expect to have on this property?
It's up to the health department. The well company told me that I could feed up to four cabins per well. I did fall under a class 3 well, which the isolation changed from 50 to 75 to any source of contamination.
Yeah.
So I gotta be, I might lose, I'm gonna call it a lot, or if you wanna call it a site, I might lose a site for a well to keep my isolations.
But
But,
your isolation is only away from your septic system.
right, 75 feet.
Yeah. Instead of 50, which, I mean, you should be able to work with that fairly easily.
Yeah, but due to where the amount, the way that they're going, it kind of puts it into the road, or I gotta push it's from any source of contamination. So in my head, on the 50-foot, I had it from the, field, but a tank's a source of contamination, right? So you gotta be 75 from there, so puts me, and if I got a cabin, and if you remember the site plan from last time, so you had a cabin and a cabin sharing the one septic system, and then to get that 75-foot isolation to pick up four of them, I either gotta go across the street and then I kill that, or I'm gonna have to go into another lot and figure out maybe a lift station or something. That's gonna be down the road. I'm just trying to get through the first four.
One of the things that you might want to talk to the health department about then is, if I'm not mistaken, you had your drain field set up as a bed system.
Yes,
See if they will allow you to do a trench system. It narrows it up, helps you with your isolation. Otsego County with Northwest Michigan Health Department, they run a 3-trench system, 52-foot long for a standard house.
right,
That narrows you down. You don't have to have So then
The
you're
big
7.5 foot, so you total, you're only 15 foot wide from outside trench to outside trench. Instead of, like if you've got a 20 by 20 field or what have you.
Right, yeah, I haven't, we just went through the perk test. And after our meeting last Monday, I left on Wednesday and I went to the health department expecting to pick up my permit. And that's when they dropped it on me, well, now you're a class 3 well, different, it's a whole nother form, so I had to start all over again. I don't have any of that information, but that might be,
Those are something to talk with the sanitarian
Yes,
about that
yeah,
can actually, that
definitely.
can really help you out a lot when you're crunched for footage.
absolutely. Yeah, plus cause I got all that depth,
Mhm.
so I could push everything, the systems back to get the isolation.
Right,
Yeah, I need to figure that out because, Pie's coming in on October 14th.
yeah, cause
To
ultimately all you
do all
need
my
is a
site.
square foot of stone underneath of your drain pipe. And there's all kinds of different ways to design a
I would
field.
rather do a trench than a bed,
Yep.
definitely.
Yeah,
There's a lot of advantages of small scale, in the sense of not having redundant wells and redundant septic systems.
I don't wanna pop in 14 wells, if I can.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? They're 13,000 a pop, so if I can feed 6, I guess it depends,
Love
it
it.
mostly depends on the well. You know, what am I getting per gallon per minute, can it serve these people? And now that I'm on a class 3, there's restrictions, there's monitoring.
Right.
I didn't wanna go down that road, but that's fine.
Yeah, a lot of it
Everybody's
well
safe.
depends on how many gallons it produces a minute
Right,
versus the amount of usage you need per building,
right,
the size of your pump, the volume you can put out. I mean, there's a lot of different things to take in.
Yeah, and down where I come from in southern Michigan, when I was on the planning board down there, we had subdivisions of 300 people, where
right.
they had a central well, and I had to be approved by the county, and a wastewater treatment plant. And that's technology that's already known, it's proven, it works. You're doing it on a smaller scale,
Right.
so I don't see why we can't make it efficient. And
If I got sticker shock, I know we've evolved from what we were doing. When it was a campground, there was a whole set of restrictions where you had to put this building in, you had to have 4 wells coming in here, you had to have injection ports with feeding and all this other stuff. I started looking at that, and that was $200,000-300,000 for that, and I'm like, there's no way, I can't do that. But if there's a way to, I got a price of 13,000 to do 1 well, that should feed 4, that's efficient. If it goes to 30,000 or 40,000 and it can do the entire site, I'm game. I would rather, but you know, that's the health department, that's not you guys. I would rather pop in 1 well and develop it like a subdivision and just tap off of everything and go.
yeah, and Dan hit it on the head, it depends on the capacity of that well.
Exactly.
One thing people don't realize, and I had to understand this and read an engineering book, people don't realize how much water, aquifers and aquifers there are under Michigan. We could provide the entire nation with water.
Don't tell anybody.
Don't tell anybody, right? Nobody wants to hear that.
Noise.
There is so much water under Michigan, because it was all covered by a glacier 10,000 years ago. That water is not an issue we have. We're not California, we're not Arizona. So you have the capacity there, you have to, go to 200-300 feet, and that's actually called pre-Trillium water, because all water has aspects of nuclear bomb testing. So if you test any water that's less than 100 feet, it's gonna have trillium in it. If it's under 200 or 300 feet, that's glacial water, that's as pure as you get. So one of those weird esoteric things I had to learn about, but it's important,
Right.
because water is
Yeah,
not an issue.
I'm tied at the, I don't wanna say the health department. I mean, they're gonna guide me on what,
Absolutely.
on the restrictions that I have to do. It's mostly up to the well guy when he drills, hey, this is what I wanna do, if we can pop this in and we can feed everybody, I'm game.
Right.
Cause I was construction superintendent for 22 years downstate, and that's kinda why this is set up. I split it like a subdivision. I'm bringing power up here, I'm bringing gas up the road, and if I can pop the well in here, I'll do individual, services to each house.
We had a developer downstate that had 400 houses, condos, houses, apartments going in. They dug down 300 feet, it's pre-trillium water, there was enough water to provide, and they pump it for 24 hours. You know, measure it, there was enough water to provide all of Oakland County. That's how much water, I mean,
Right,
as they say, the new oil is water. We got tons of it,
right.
so.
Denny has a question.
Yeah, just, I don't wanna bring up, you guys are wasting a lot of your time because the health department's gonna solve this problem. It's
Yep.
good information. The only thing I wanted to bring up is that, what if young Kent wants to put a sawmill next to his plan, and it's gonna be noisy and there's gonna be trucks because it's industrial? I'm only saying it because of the devil's advocate. Now, where goes his plan, whatever. I'm just,
You're talking about, Danny, you're talking about the path.
I'm talking
first
about the
applicant.
industrial piece of property
He's right
next to this
adjacent to
gentleman
industrial.
that's
Okay.
buying, so all I'm saying, you have industrial, they're willing to invest and put in something there. You still have this industrial, you can have a commercial site that'll bang away and make lots of noise. You haven't deleted that, just so these guys are aware
I see.
that, because I don't want them to say that, come back to you and say, well, you know, I sure wish I'd have bought that other damn 10 acres. You know, because now
That
I
would be
have a
the chance
problem.
you take.
So I'm just trying to,
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
I just-
And that's what you get
Yeah.
downstate, where a subdivision comes in and there's a pig farm next to them, and all of a sudden they wanna close the pig farm.
Right.
They're just 100%
Pig farm was
agree
there
with that.
first.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, so.
Has anybody done an environmental study of the soil and so on there?
Besides me,
Have you done one?
I'm a soil scientist.
What's that?
I'm a soil
Have
scientist.
you done one?
I know, it's sand. It's
It's
a
sand.
gray calm sand with lays clay
What else
further
is in
down.
it? There's been gas, there's been oil, transmission fluids, all kinds of things. in
Oh,
there.
what's happened across the border,
Yes.
a line? I have
Yes.
no idea what's in that ground.
Do you think that might be important?
The health department says 75 feet from a contamination source. I believe it's more than 75 feet. I don't think he parked his cars on the
Well,
property.
And you've gotta do a water sample
Right, and
once the well's done anyways.
3 times a year anyway.
right,
Yeah.
and typically you go to the next aquifer or aquiclude, you bypass the
How about
surface water.
contaminants?
Gotcha.
So you're deeper.
You're digging into the soil. How about-
Well, no, this parcel here never was under the junkyard.
Okay.
Right.
I know what he's talking about. The cars, I don't think the cars were even parked up to the line. He had a vegetative barrier there between the
Yeah, that was
adjacent
further
property.
west.
Yes,
Yep.
yes, where he stacked the cars, 'cause I remember back in the day getting parts.
Me too.
Yeah. But you're right, stuff fell on the ground back then that wouldn't be allowed now.
That's fine.
Right?
Okay, so the next point you have is the structure size, right? allowed.
Correct, structure sizes. The section 1201 says, is the magic number, the 768, but we have economy efficient dwellings are allowed in,
That's in the definitions.
That's in the definition of the dwelling, not a urban.
it's, that's another hurdle we have to come across. Where was that? We allow bed and breakfast in R1. Economy efficient dwellings in R2. And ag and forestry, but not industrial. Okay, and it's principal use permitted in R2. And the definition of that was the weird one, which allows it up to so many square feet, which is what, 500?
Yeah.
So,
At 500,
Yeah, 250 to 500, 240 to 500.
correct.
And then section 1201 starts at 768, that's the deadly loophole we have in there. And you're looking at 680?
680.
680.
unless you went some above and some below the
Well,
500.
I'm gonna be a devil's advocate here and come in at a different angle and suggest maybe he wants to go for a variance on the building sizes and spacing and clump a bunch of this stuff together into one ZBA hearing and get this cleaned up at the ZBA level.
Well, I know, but you didn't wanna really clump them though.
Well, I'm talking about the issues, not the.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have a couple issues here.
Well-
Number one is our size of our structure. Okay, and that's what I'm just trying to piece out here, where our issues are and how we can resolve them. This is the structure size.
So the problem is from the economy efficient dwellings to the minimum in R2? That's
The
gap we're
minimum
talking
in
about?
all, in all of them is 768. And that's an antique number. I realize it's an antiquated number, but that's the number that's in the ordinance right now. And that's what we're looking at, it's the ordinance right now, not 2 weeks from now or a month from now or anything. Unless that changes too. But right now, there's this gap between 500 and 768 in our ordinance, which makes no sense, but it's there.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're talking about tiny houses too, and that's gonna come
Well,
up
that's
in the
what
next meeting, right?
We're
So
right
we-
between them,
We
yeah.
gotta, you know, that's gonna have
That
to.
needs to be addressed.
Exactly. 'Cause-
But at this meeting right now, for this application, we have a gap.
Right.
Okay. One way around that gap at this moment would be ZBA, ask for a variance on that gap. And the request for the variance would be, they're looking at opening that up anyways, but,
Actually, I had a long conversation, I have an email here from Denise Klein, and she gave us some options on what to do, and she's an expert in
Mhm.
planning.
Oh, no, I understand
Right.
that, yeah.
Okay, she said one thing is we could rezone the property district for resort or cabin courts. And that would
Okay.
allow that.
Even though we
And
don't
that's
allow
currently-
resort or cabin
that-
courts in our ordinance, but we could
Yeah, exactly.
zone that forestry,
Here it is.
agriculture, forest and agriculture.
Yep. There it is. I gave one to the applicant too. Dan, I think you.
In the R, in the R2 in the industrial district, not C1, didn't mention that, so.
Right, right. So this, I've done some homework working with NEMCOG to see how we can make this work. And here are their ideas on how we can make this work. And and again, everything's about process, you know,
Mhm.
15 days prior notice, send letters to property owners within 300 feet. Planning Commission holds public hearings, makes a recommendation to rezone. Rezoning goes to the Board of Commissioners, you have 30 days to respond. Zoning then goes to the Township Board for approval. Notice of adoption within 15 days of adoption takes effect on the 8th day after publication. That's by the book.
Okay,
Okay.
that's what she's suggesting is do a rezoning.
Yep,
Okay, so going back to it, the current zoning of it being industrial and neighborhood-friendly business. Under industrial, there's no minimum square foot size.
The industrial doesn't allow structures like this.
right, that's the
That's why
problem.
they don't have it.
That's why, so that's not, so the neighborhood family or the neighborhood business, the neighborhood oriented business,
So what does the industrial have on square foot size for buildings then?
0.
Industrial NA, minimum floor is
Right.
NA.
Right.
Maximum height 40.
The problem is that
Setbacks.
industrial isn't zoned for this kind of use, is gonna be the issue.
But he was
like I
saying
say,
the
it
neighborhood
boils down to
oriented business.
interpretation
Yeah.
of neighborhood-friendly business.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah,
right.
exactly.
So,
Right, you could take that angle on it too,
Right.
but,
Is that by use or by permission?
yeah, now, that was one option.
no, it's
Option,
already in there.
option 2 was amend the ordinance to list reserves and cabins, as an allowable use in the R2 and industrial district. You could amend the ordinance to list these uses as permitted uses for special approval for those districts. Option 3 is allow the cabins as single-family dwellings. And this is a question she says the planning commission should discuss, because it involves an variance, but this is how we legally go about this and can accommodate this use of it. And really, that's what I look at the planning commission, to think outside the box and to see how we can work with people like yourself and accommodate it, because I see a lot of positive to it.
Right.
Of course, there are always negatives, right? But I see more positives in terms of business, in terms of recreational use, which is what we have up here. For this to go through the process, we just have to figure out how.
And that's why we're having a meeting tonight, is to find this out so we can keep rolling with this.
Correct. And this has to do with, and it'll come up at the meeting on Wednesday, but it also has to do with tiny housing, because one of the things, and I saw this in AARP, shows how old I am, magazine, that a lot of things are having, because of COVID, she sheds, and other properties where a parent dies, they gave an example, the grandparent comes to live there, they have their own housing unit, which is smaller, it's like 300 square feet, and Dan mentioned this too. And for seasonal workers. And they have the main house where they go to for dinner, but they have their own privacy. This is becoming a huge trend across the United States, because we have a huge aging population.
Right.
And if it's on your property, I don't see what the issue is.
I saw that.
I mean, and this is your property. This is kind of goes along those same lines. You're gonna put, a couple wells in, one septic field, efficiencies of scale makes a lot of sense, rather than having, 8 different houses on 8 different acres.
Right,
It's very inefficient.
exactly. That's one of the land costs.
Yeah,
You know, I've been preaching to the choir for the last 20 years. Why can't we get back to the 1,100 square foot Cracker Jack boxes? Slam them, put them, but no, you gotta have 30 feet. You gotta have minimum 20,000 square foot lot sizes. So it's not efficient to do it that way.
I saw an example today, thank you, Craig, on what they're doing in Korea to basically make very efficient houses, 3 stories high. But it's thinking outside the box, that we have to think. Not everybody, and let's be honest about this, Gordon, what I've heard this from 3 different people, the reason why we had 750 square feet minimum is because we didn't want trailers,
Mobile homes.
mobile homes.
Correct.
Right? So, that's illegal. That's illegal.
Well, it was illegal to say no mobile homes, but if you
Well,
made it 768 square foot minimum size, it's outlawed.
It's a canard, it's a lie, right? So, let's just call it for what it is. you
Yeah.
know? We didn't want mobile home people, so you can't do that.
So what's your option then? Say that our numbers are illegal? What numbers are new numbers?
What I'm saying is that we should, planning commission, Phil
Needs
said
to be
it.
revisited,
Phil said
correct.
it at the board meeting, it's 100% in the planning commission's wheelhouse. Tiny houses and this kind of issue. And this is where I think we have to think
And we could even
outside the
just say
box.
tiny house is a house less than 768 square feet and leave it at that.
We could.
Yeah.
We could, and keep it simple.
Then you'll wind up with one of them up there on
700.
Lake 15, and Dave's just gonna love it. I mean,
Yeah,
Dave-
well,
Yeah.
Dave
you
Township-
know the neighbors, they get all uppity.
I know what happens to property
Well,
values and things like that. occur.
Well, you have to follow zoning, you have to follow the rules, and that's what we have to do here, we have to set the rules. You can't just have it happening hodgepodge, I agree with what you're saying, Phil.
Good.
The way I look at this, I'm just asking a question, see what you guys think. If he's gonna have 14 cabins, then he's gonna need 14 zoning permits. Because you need a zoning permit for every building permit.
Well,
Or are you
So
gonna
you call this
No,
a
it's-
project?
If you package this together, you can't get a packaged building permit.
no, but you can still get the zoning permits for the
That's what
whole
I'm asking.
property.
Yeah, see.
Yeah, I would think you'd be able to,
You think we can combine it all
I
in
would
one?
zone it as a project,
Okay.
Right.
yeah. I mean, cause,
I'm not trying to
You're-
spend money
yeah.
or take your money.
Oh, right,
you know, the idea behind zoning is to make sure you're meeting the zoning requirements and that you've had a chance to review them as an
Well,
administrator.
then on the original zoning form, he's gonna have to draw squares of each cabin and,
He's going to,
He's got.
he'll have this, but he'll also have a blow up of one of the sites.
okay.
Right.
Then I just need to staple one, I'll take care of that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just wanna know what you guys thought about that.
Yeah.
No, and I just talked to somebody downstate in Macomb County where, if anybody knows Macomb County and M59, they're now behind the Costco. They're putting in apartments 10 stories high, you
You
know?
know, where at?
Um,
Sorry,
M59, by 53.
okay.
East of there, they're putting all kinds of high rises up there.
You know what's worse than that, in the
So-
AMC, the old AMC on Shaner and Hall Road, they put an apartment complex in that parking lot.
There you go. There you go.
In the parking
I
lot.
remember when
Right.
59
I'm
was
like,
two
are you
lanes.
kidding me?
Yeah.
Ain't no more.
No, 59 is horrendous as it is.
Oh, that's one of the reasons.
With the
I
one-
drive that every day
Okay.
to Pontiac to go to work.
So anyways, kind of a, not to get off on a tangent.
All right,
Go ahead.
so we gotta get that straightened around. All right, we have road layout here. We have section 1310, private roads. It says 30-foot right-of-way is fine if you have 6 dwellings or less. More than 6 dwellings, 7 to 20 dwellings, our ordinance asks for a 40-foot right-of-way. Greater than 20 dwellings, it asks for a 66-foot right-of-way.
But now that would only pertain to the Land Division Act, right?
It says the
Otherwise,
application
they're just
review
driveways.
and
Yeah, this is
approval of
private
private roads shall follow the same procedure for uses subject to special approval. This is a private road.
Now, unless, the only time a private road is required is when you do a land split. It's one contiguous piece of property. He's not required to have any roads. He can
Well,
have.
that's true, he could call the whole thing a driveway.
Exactly.
But if he wants to do a future land split, does that get stopped because his driveway's too narrow?
Yeah.
Just make sure you put your building setbacks
The only
first.
thing-
Yeah, so
But
that
it
you
shouldn't be a
lighten it out.
requirement at from our standpoint right now, it's more you looking for the future of what you wanna do. But if you go this, with keeping it contiguous, you can do your drives however you want.
Right.
That was in the ordinance, I wanted to bring that out.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Just so you're
No,
aware of
Yes,
that.
definitely.
Yeah, we're not
But-
stopping the project for it or
but-
anything like that,
But
but,
understand too, they're private roads and public roads. 90% of what I'm used to is when a development is done, they become public roads.
yeah.
If you do a private road, you can do whatever you want. You can set the speed limit, you can do anything you want. But you also accept the liability,
Yeah, and the maintenance,
right?
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
if you wanna do maintenance.
But
Yes.
downstate on a dirt road, you can go as fast as you want as long as you're under control of the car. And
Yeah,
guess
there's no
who sets
speed
that?
limit.
Exactly, guess
I'm
who
surprised you
sets
know
that?
that.
Hey, I've been doing this for 2 decades.
That's what
right?
the big hole in front of my house is for. If you wanna go 90 through there,
And you know who sets the speed limit? The state police.
yep.
And it then depends on curb cuts. If you want 25 miles an hour in a public road and there are enough curb cuts, they're gonna make it 55.
No, I create a big hole in front of my house, I get to keep all the hubcaps, $100 for
Yeah.
back.
But if you do a private road, you can, 15 miles an hour, you can set it, try enforcing it, good
Right.
luck.
Yep.
Because police won't enforce it.
2 dwellings, some parcel.
Yeah, that was the next one, I'm looking that up. Multiple dwellings on the same parcel. That's also dealt with in our,
Well,
Ordinance.
once again, that doesn't apply
That's in the
because it's not a
501.
division.
what?
Once again, that doesn't apply because it's not a division act.
Right.
Because it's not a division act, it doesn't have,
Because they're not individual lots, it's one gigantic
Correct.
property, so it falls back on.
well, that's what I'm
itself.
saying, if we don't allow 2 dwellings on one parcel, where do we allow 16? You see what I'm saying?
Oh, okay,
No, I'm just taking pieces right now and working through the pieces,
okay, I
okay?
gotcha.
All right, under 501, we allow second buildings under special approval. But we have a situation where we're not allowing multiple dwellings right now as the ordinance stands in any district, which needs to be corrected, because we do have a lot of mother-in-law cabins and they are needed, as I call them. I don't know how we get around that part. Work with me here, board.
Well, the fact that that it's more than one house on the lot is what you're saying? Is the
Yeah,
issue?
yeah.
Well,
There
you
won't
put an
be-
apartment up, they could put a 10.
That'd be
10-story.
multi-dwelling, yes.
So
So
it's
multi-dwelling.
multi-dwelling.
We can call it multi-dwelling, now it's special approval.
Well, that's right, and that's what Denise kinda laid out here, how we can do this.
Yeah,
The thing is that we do it in such a way that it's structured, that we just don't open the floodgates to everything.
yes,
and-
I
correct.
agree.
And this applies to just this property,
Mhm.
you know? So somebody else can't come in and say, I wanna put up a 10-story apartment building, without going through the entire process and saying, well, they did it. No, it's different.
Right,
You know, you got special approval for this.
right.
There are rules to the road, as we see in finance. There are
Yep,
rules to
yep.
the road.
Yep.
So,
All right, and then the short-term rentals is allowed in 501 as a, we have it as a bed and breakfast and as two-family dwellings? No, that don't make sense, so 5 or 9. Oh, multiple dwellings or bed and breakfast is special approval in 501 too. That ain't what I'm looking for. Oh, yeah, bed and breakfast.
but bed and breakfast is allowed into the law, and the person has to live there.
No, we don't have any definition like that.
Okay, well, it's open, is what it is.
A family dwelling used or designed in such a manner that certain rooms in excess of those used by the family are rented to transient public for compensation. That's how we define a bed and breakfast.
Key role in being involved with this is the fact that you can't rent them for more than 30 days,
Yeah, we don't have anything in here about that.
right? We should add that. And as Denise said at the last meeting, we should have an ordinance that basically lays out the rules. The owner should be responsible, you know, noise and all that kind of stuff.
That's what the township board was leaning on us to kind of create.
That's
Yep.
exactly right.
Yep, yep.
And you gotta hold the homeowner accountable,
Mm-hmm.
100%.
No, I guess I'm looking in the bigger picture here too, though. He built some snazzy little cottages here, and see, he can rent 5 of them all the time. The other 5 are sitting vacant. Perfect place for an elderly couple or a young family or something to move in there. I don't wanna preclude him
Right,
from able to
Right.
turn some of this into long-term rental, or all of it into long-term rental if that
Down
works
the road.
better for
Well,
you. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
then it becomes
So-
a lease. That's the
Well,
difference.
that's okay,
And then the whole
Right.
premise is.
but yeah, we have to work that into this so that
No.
that is an end game option.
No, and
We
I
don't
agree.
wanna
I
rule
do-
that out.
I've had multiple calls for people saying, hey, I need a place to live for 2-3 months, can you help me? And I'm like, you're not gonna wanna stay in my place,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and
it's too big.
that we've heard it's on the news, virtually every other week I hear about, they can't get workers for the summer. There's no
Right.
place for them
For
to
them
stay.
to live, yeah.
Right,
Well, we're not helping that situation by saying short-term only here.
right,
You
right.
know, we're
So-
adding more dwellings to
so
the community,
you're-
but we're not allowing community members to occupy
But
them.
you're saying we should broaden that definition then?
Well,
We're
I
talking
don't
about a
know if we
dwelling.
need to broaden that, but we need to be aware that the more projects like this we allow, we're not helping our existing stock.
No, you're not.
Right,
Broadening the definition may help us, to expand our existing stock. We may even have something in the ordinance saying, we encourage this kind of development, but you need to take a certain percentage and set it aside for housing
for
stock.
permanent housing.
For more permanent housing or something like that. It's a great idea and everything, but we are starving for housing right now,
Right,
and this isn't helping with that. Not that we're requiring him to help
Right.
with that.
well, we're dealing with the situation as it is, but on a broader thing, we're talking about tiny housing, absolutely agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
But we're dealing with the issue in front of us and.
Yes, correct. But I wanna also be able to look forward into the future and say,
Absolutely.
yeah, 'cause I don't wanna
Absolutely.
get you trapped in a situation either.
There'd be a lot of discussion on this.
So I guess our next step, cause if we're going through a publication and stuff, I need to roll that into the paper by this weekend to get the 24th,
Yep.
which we could squeeze it down to the 24th. But what am I putting in the paper?
Which way are we going?
Right, so,
Yeah, that's the
That's
question.
what I'm wondering, which way are we going? I mean,
Right.
We're
So
doing,
what
That's why
were,
we're
what were
having-
we're
the
doing a
the
re-
issues at hand were the multiple structures on one lot?
Yep,
Is that a you problem or is that a planning problem?
it's a planning
it's a
problem.
planning problem. I don't have any personal problems.
And
It's planning problems.
yeah, we're agnostic.
And then if we go to the industrial side of it that's already there, I should be okay.
Well, what I'm looking at, and I gave you a copy of it too, and we need to all kind of absorb all this tonight, we're just gathering information, but to me, rezoning the district, to a district that's a resort or cabin courts
Okay,
is existing under current Michigan law. That would make sense. That-
Okay.
This kind of fits that bill.
so rezoning it to forest recreation will do everything that I want to do.
Correct, we could do it one or two ways, we could do forest recreation, or we could do, resorts or cabin court. Either way, but forest
So-
recreation is another way of doing it too. So there are two different ways you could approach it.
That other one you don't have in your zoning ordinance, so I would
Cor-
say go with the forest agricultural, or, forest recreation.
That would work. Yeah.
I'm just
right.
trying to-
'Cause we already have that.
Make it
right?
easier, right, yeah, that's
Right.
already in there, the cabin
Right.
courts things, that's not even in your.
So we don't have to do a rezoning, which basically it's an allowable use,
So basically just changing it to all forest recreation.
recreational, right,
So rezone the property to forest recreational.
right.
Then you're gonna have to do something on the, square footage.
Yeah, 40,000 square foot, your minimum site on Forest
So you're
Rec.
gonna have to do that.
Right.
I got 40,000 square feet, I got 8.5 acres.
No, I'm talking also on the cabins itself. That's something. you're gonna have to do.
Forest Rec shows, yeah, 768.
So you wanna drop back to 680.
Right.
But you'd
So all
think the
this is gonna
forest
be special.
recreation would have the
Each case
economy
is
efficient
a
dwelling
separate
in that
case.
too.
We're gonna,
Our general residential allows 600 minimum on multiple dwellings, for multiple or two-family dwellings.
So what
R2
we-
does?
R2 does, and it's already partially zoned R2.
Okay.
If we took a portion of that, see, you have that place just north of that in the motorcycle club, and this place here, take all of them
Make
and
it
zone
all
them back to
R2.
R2.
Well, I'm the only one that's not, everything already is zoned R2.
No, this, oh, you're right, yeah,
Yeah,
except
Briley
for,
Pines is already R2.
yeah. Now, is
The
the cabin?
the motorcycle club's R2.
Yeah,
But there's still an industrial section in there.
yeah,
Yeah,
there's.
so half of the site, the existing industrial site has to get rezoned to R2.
Mhm.
And then I fall in all the categories and
So
we're
then
good to
you can
go.
do the 600 square feet,
Yeah,
right,
okay?
Yeah. then you go.
Gordon, is this the industrial site that's surrounded by residential?
it is.
There's no commercial buffer whatsoever.
Not right now, no.
It's just house right up to the.
Right up to the industrial zone.
Industrial.
yeah, it's the Wild West.
That was an issue I seen from day one.
And that is a risk he's taking by pushing the boundary there, but,
Me?
yeah. No, he has another part, well, Mike has that industrial strip there. No,
No, I don't touch
no,
anything.
it'd just be right up, maybe
There's
site
one,
12.
there's one spot that I'm like up the houses, and that's right here. This 119 feet. There's nothing back here.
No.
I own this. There's the motorcycle club, there's the retreat at Briley Pines.
Mm.
You got Mike and then Stacy.
Right.
No,
No,
Stacy's
Steve
back
should be
here.
back in here.
Stacy's back.
Yeah.
My next
This is
question,
Brad.
So there's a subdivision right here.
Yeah,
Yeah, Azure.
Gordon, one more question. Is the industrial being used as industrial?
right now,
It's vacant.
it's mostly vacant.
Okay.
He is doing some car repair there,
That's not
but
industrial.
he's not using it as a heavy industrial, no.
Yeah, it's C1, basically, is how it's being used.
It's being used as a C1, or C2 heavy commercial, yeah.
So really just putting it all to the R2 is really the most logical, seems like the most
I
logical
would
thing.
wonder if he'd even entertain that and have him go right over to C2 too.
Yeah,
C2 or R2?
That just makes more sense because of the location.
R2?
R2, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because you already have a lot of R2, so then you could just like as, I mean, there's nothing tying your hands then,
Right.
as R2.
So I just put in the paper, we're requesting an R2. Where
For
that
the
is.
entire parcel, yeah.
Right. But the portion of it right now that's R2, the zoning permit could be approved for that. At 600 square foot building.
Get rolling.
Then you could get rolling and
Yeah.
then deal with the rest
Well,
of the
then
industrial.
You're talking two individual zoning permits, so we
Yeah.
back up to that. So if he wants to get going, then we're gonna have to do individual
You may wanna
zoning permits.
do two permits, do one permit for the south half of the project.
Yeah.
Phase
and
one,
then
phase
get
two.
There
the
you go.
rezoned and then phase two.
And then you
is
might
the
wanna
north
do the
half.
second phase
Okay,
next
If you
year.
wanna go
Right.
quicker, I mean, that's.
No, that's
50
fine.
bucks and you move a lot faster.
Brenner, you had a thought?
Well, the owner of the industrial, they wouldn't have to cease and desist anything that they're doing, they'd be grandfathered in if you
Correct,
rezoned it.
yeah.
Right.
I'm wondering, and I'm almost positive the property value would increase and so would the surrounding properties. Should you try to make that a little bit more friendly to the environment?
Mm-hmm. Let me, well, that'd be nice to know beforehand. I
Is
am
that-
related
are
to
you
the
talking
fellow.
about are you talking
I
about
think
my
you have to have it-
industrial
you have to
property,
have
or, cause the rest of it's,
Specific in writing that he wants to do it.
There was one
it's all
chunk,
R2.
there was one chunk of industrial stuff in the
Otherwise,
middle of
we're shooting
residential.
ourselves.
That's
in the foot
mine.
for not getting that
That's
in
mine,
writing.
that's what I'm trying, yeah,
From him.
that's what I'm trying to get.
Stacy's is industrial also.
Mm-hmm.
He told me
With all
Stacy's
of
is
it.
industrial.
That's his.
Oh, okay.
Removal.
Yeah.
So you can't speak up for somebody
No,
else.
Stoyle's,
Stacy
Oh, yeah,
Weaver,
it's
who
not-
owns
it's just the
an
same.
industrial piece
He
in
made
there.
it.
Well,
he-
yeah,
no,
that's
he's
all
not,
in the
he's,
paper, right.
he's, R, that's R2.
Good deal. All I tell you, I know he told me.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I'm just,
Yeah,
all I'm
that's-
saying is get rid of the.
He doesn't want his change.
It's out of place.
But that doesn't have anything to do with you.
Right, okay,
We just wanna make sure we don't change the whole thing, the
right.
whole area.
You
No,
need,
it's-
you need something that says intent of the entire parcel, not only now, but in the future,
Okay,
okay? So the direction of this planning commission can have its ducks in a row for what we say when we say it. If it's not in writing, just putting it in a newspaper as to what the intent is from changing the zoning says nothing about your intent.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be pretty, we pay by the word, so what we put in the paper
Well,
is
it-
just
well,
what's
if you're
legally
changing it to
required.
R2,
Yeah.
you're going into the R2 district, that's your intent is to build
Right.
R2.
Yeah,
You're not,
That's about all you
Gonna
have
put
to say.
But now you talked about phases, and we don't have anything that says about your phases. We don't have anything about what Dave's talking about.
well, what says that I have to do the entire development right now?
It's
If
fine
it's all-
that
if
you're
it's all-
doing
if it-
phases, but the intent has to be noted now in order for anybody, I think, to make a decision on what you're gonna do. Otherwise, you could put up a 10-story building there, and there's not a damn thing we could do about it, because there was no intent.
well, no, it would be
Yeah,
whatever
then
he
it'd have to be
issues a
rezoned
permit
back
for.
to-
It'd have to be
It'd have to
rezoned.
Right, because if you're
Rezone
going,
back.
it's gotta
Once
stay
again.
within the regulations of R2 then.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why I'm
Okay,
looking at
stay
this long
within the
hard.
regulations of R2. The entire project is to stay in the
writing.
regulations of R2.
In writing, specific intent.
Right, okay.
Otherwise, I can't vote for it.
Yeah,
I can't.
that's fine. I can do that.
Draw a dotted line.
So Gordon, you're gonna get this in the paper?
Yeah, I'm just wondering what I'm putting in the paper, do I wanna put all, line these whole parcels up here, grab the existing B and B, grab the motorcycle club, and grab his other house also? Well, no, that's already R2. I'm just trying to figure the legal description of how to split that industrial out.
What is
Unless I
the-
get a hold of Micah and have,
Isn't the motorcycle R2 anyways? Already?
yeah, part of it, yeah.
If you want to do something.
And that's on the north side of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad
So I
to
think
get
you'll
rid
be
of the
okay.
industrial.
The retreat is on the south.
I'm glad to get rid of the industrial down there, cause
Yeah, his
Well, it's in.
other cabin,
residential area.
the big cabin is industrial.
I mean, I don't have anything against.
It's
them.
on the map, it's
First thing was
industrial.
Oh,
silly.
okay, yeah.
So you wanna rezone that
yeah.
too?
Yeah, on that map it is, but on
Right,
this
no,
map
I
it's
get
not.
it.
Okay,
I get
yeah.
it.
So
Well,
that's the weird part where they got a lot of this industrial, there's already houses on them.
yes,
Right.
yes.
So it'd be nice to get some of that stuff cleared up.
Well, I'd like to see,
Next person can, I guess, I don't know.
with the planning commission's approval, let me touch base with Micah and toss the whole industrial over to R2, if I can get his blessing. Or maybe not, have him come fight me in the meeting. Let me touch base with him real quick on that, not getting to read detail and stuff, and invite him to the meeting, because then he'd be within 300 feet. We'd invite him to the meeting, and then if he pitches a major bitch about it or something, we can cut that portion back off again. But if he doesn't and he's good with it, then we just ixnay that whole industrial district there and make it all R2.
We'd accomplish two things at once.
Yeah.
basically, yeah.
Just make sure that you don't do Stacy Weaver.
Well, Stacy's over here, he's out of the zone. Yeah.
So if in the future I acquire the motorcycle club and on that lot 1, I put in a general store to supply my cabin rentals and stuff like that, that's not gonna fall in the R2.
R2 allows neighborhood, is it not?
Well, it would be under a special approval,
Okay, yeah,
but I don't
As
see,
is this
that's-
also falls under special approval.
does this fall under
Under
special approval
R2.
too?
Yeah,
Yeah.
read number 1 under, here. And you can see down here, it says special.
Oh no, that's for going to the Forest Recreation District.
Okay, but it's also talking about resorts and cabin courts.
Oh, to make it as, amend the ordinance to list resorts and cabin courts as an allowable use in R2 and industrial districts.
Right,
So we need to do that too.
right.
Well, that needs to be in the paper too, so we can do,
And then, you know, and again, it's to protect everybody.
yeah,
You know, it's an allowable use, and somebody can't say, hey, they did it, well, why can't I? Well, no, you have to rezone it. You know, if you wanna go through that process, then great. But there's a process.
So
you
how
have to
much
follow.
how much rezoning are we gonna allow under the master plan that constantly avails the change of zoning to accommodate? How much of this do you plan on doing?
You do it on a case-by-case basis.
I realize that, but how much are you gonna do? Otherwise, your master plan is shot in the foot.
Well,
correct. The master plan that we are writing right now that isn't even cast in stone yet. Yes,
Well, Denise.
that may
Do you wanna-
be in the
do you wanna
master
set that
plan.
problem up, or
Right.
do you wanna deal with it? Because I think you should deal with it.
Well, it's part of what we're doing with NEMCOG, and we can add this to the master plan. This
Right.
came from an expert in NEMCOG, you know, so
It did.
if she doesn't know what she's doing, then none of
Well,
us.
I'm just saying that, I mean, we have a master plan in progress right now, but we're not gonna make him wait for his project for us
Correct.
to come out with the master plan and then the zoning ordinance, because we're still a year out from that.
Correct, what we're
We're
doing
working
is-
with the ordinance in front of us.
Correct, but what this does is tells us in the master plan a direction for the township that this kind of use, we allow. And the master plan is like
Mm-hmm.
the Declaration of Independence, it's just very broad. This is very specific. So that comes out of the master plan, but
Yeah,
as to what we're doing right now, it's very specific to what you wanna do.
okay,
Do you
but now,
think that- Do you think we're rushing into this in order to get it done
That's
prior to the master plan?
no, I don't
No.
believe so at
We're
all.
not- Yeah,
No, what we're trying to do is get him fit in. I'm thinking in the future, it'd be a lot easier for him than right now with the ordinance we have right now, but we're trying to get him in with the ordinance that's in front of us,
Correct.
because we have to use the ordinance that's in front of us. Or he can wait a year for the new ordinance, and then
will-
see if that fits in
And
better.
will that set precedence for the master plan?
No, I don't think it
no,
will.
master plan, 10,000 feet,
Yep,
basically says we want affordable housing. You know, we
Yeah.
want, we
And
want
that's the
these sorts
biggest
of
problem
things.
that we have, and we're averting that, we're not even discussing it, we're trying.
Well,
to
it's a
adopt-
separate.
Well, no, that's
it's a
true.
We're
separate-
talking about
yeah.
nothing but short term,
correct.
But we're setting a template that could apply
for
to
short
that.
term.
Well,
We're not- I don't hear anything in there that says,
Well, this
This
is a
is for
special
affordable
hearing
housing.
for these gentlemen for their
I
projects.
understand
Yes,
that,
correct.
I'm not hearing affordable housing anywhere.
We're not
No,
talking about affordable
I
housing.
realize it, but you're not planning for it either.
Well, it's a separate discussion.
That's a whole
I
separate
I
meeting.
understand it's a separate discussion.
And it's one where you gave us, you said at the planning commission, we're
I charged you
recorded,
with affordable housing before I said anything.
tiny housing,
And then I said tiny houses and short-term rentals.
right.
You reverted short-term rentals forever and a day. You didn't want to talk about it. You wanted until the state comes out with their proposal. And yet you're still averting that. That's not.
We're
doing
not
that
averting
either.
anything, Phil.
I see you doing it.
I'm sorry.
I don't want to be caught up in something that will burn this township. You're always talking about lawsuits. I want to make damn sure this thing that we do, if we do it, is ironclad.
Mm-hmm.
Ironclad. Because in the future, you're gonna affect yourself by doing what you do with this.
That's why we're following this to make sure it's rezoned specific to this use. Specific to this use.
If it can be,
Okay.
within the parameters of,
If you're gonna allow for everything, and this has to include everything, we can't do that.
no, I'm not trying to, Mark. I'm trying to look at the entire project as a good project for the community. I'm not looking at it negative. I'm looking at it as something that will it in fact hurt the community as a whole. Not dealing with something that could have been affordable housing, that won't be. And where are we gonna get the affordable housing? Because I don't see anybody that's in Verbo or Airbnb giving a rat's butt for affordable housing.
But that,
None of you care about it.
Well,
that
Not one
doesn't
of
mean
them.
anything.
Phil,
it means
That is
everything.
not
It
affordable
does.
housing.
It
It's
does
not
if you don't have a home.
It's
No.
not
Yeah,
affordable
But
housing.
your hotel isn't affordable housing. You don't give a
No,
rat's ass
it's
about
not.
it either.
It's not affordable housing.
But if you're
You
wealthy,
guys-
it
you guys are
doesn't matter,
comparing apples
right?
to oranges, I'm
Exactly.
afraid.
Okay, I've got.
What we're doing right now-
Hold on.
That sawmill
We're gonna
doesn't
stop-
help us,
we're gonna-
affordable
We're gonna
housing.
stop this right now, Phil.
Yeah.
Well,
When I have a family member come up for the rededication for Plumley Park, that is a Plumley, and calls every motel around, and every single motel in this area was so rude to her, every one of them. She found a VRBO that treated her great. Knowing that she was a Plumley, they cut their rate in half for her,
I have
because she
never-
couldn't find a place.
I have never.
So,
will
I would
never do
suggest,
that.
don't slam the
That's
VRBO.
hearsay, because I've never heard of it. I've never had that happen to me, ever.
It happened last week, Phil, and
I
yes, you were
think-
We
one
were
that
full
talked to her.
last week. What do you want us to do?
But you're rude, and that's
No, it
the
wasn't
problem.
rude.
honestly,
So-
I can see where you're coming from. If I bought a piece of property down the road that already had 6 houses and I wanted to turn them all into VRBOs. I totally get that because they were already up, they were building. This is a completely new development designed to do that.
I didn't say I'm against you.
Okay,
I didn't say that.
and I had spoken to him, I didn't wanna, maybe I should have said it sooner. I'm giving this a shot to see if this works for me through Verbo. I have every intention, if this takes off, to move up here, and with your guys' blessing, if we could find other lots, and I could do the same thing, but do them an individual for affordable housing, I'm on board. I would love to leave my job downstate, come up here and build 600 square foot cabins as a builder,
Okay.
and give me the land,
Yeah,
and let's go, and
don't
do the affordable
misunderstand
housing.
what I say, Rob.
No,
I'm not against this project.
Right.
I'm having this board, or this planning commission, to look at what's gonna happen in the future based on the decision coming out of this room,
Gotcha.
as to how it affects zoning and other areas of the community. That's all I care about, because that's as fair as it gets.
Right.
Well, like Denise said, each case is an individual case.
Absolutely.
That's what she said.
And that's fine, I have no issues with that either. I mean, that's the way things are.
Does the current zoning ordinance specify or have a definition for affordable housing?
No.
Can somebody enlighten me as far as what we're talking about?
Affordable housing,
Yes.
less than 30% of your income.
Right.
Do we have any in the community? I don't think so.
No.
Unless you make a lot of money.
Weaver Woods is not an affordable housing
No.
unit? Not anywhere?
Well, and here's the
Depends how much
thing
money you
is,
make, but no, it's
Yeah.
not,
anybody that's looking
Well,
at
that
rentals is not gonna get
whose
affordable.
income you're looking at.
it's not
If
Section
you're looking
8.
at somebody like Denny or Bruno, you know, that 30% of theirs is quite a bit.
Oh, yeah, but no, it's not based on income. The stuff over on Jerome Street, No, it's not section 8 anymore, it's just apartments.
Correct.
If you
But-
can afford to live there, you can live there.
But there's, you know, if you're looking, talking rental versus owning, affordable to me is when a person can go build their own house a lot cheaper than having the size limit restrictions. That's how you get affordable housing.
Well, the state and the federal governments dictate what the rules are, the laws with that.
But, you know, as far as when it comes to, you know, if you're looking at putting building places to afford, you know, that people can afford to rent, that's not gonna happen, because it's all based on the owner of those rental properties. They set the rent, you pay it or you don't.
And the
So
other,
that
the other
doesn't matter.
thing, the infrastructure to put in the septic, the well, the electrical, it's better if it's all together, consolidated. To do it independently, the infrastructure just kills affordable housing.
And that's when it goes into your minimum lot size of 20,000 square
Exactly.
foot, where you gotta have 150 foot. If you could, like the old plats, I'm not gonna say Detroit, but where they're 40-foot lots. I see
Right.
plat maps, I'm like, holy crap, 30-foot lots.
No,
The houses are
25
28
foot
feet high,
lots.
you know what I mean?
They're all
Now, that's
over.
how you do
But
it.
people lived in a lot smaller homes back when those
Right.
lots were split that way.
Exactly. It needs to go back to that.
So we talking the projects in Detroit?
Let's talk about it.
No,
Okay,
we're
so
talking
what I'm
about the
looking
lots
at,
down in Old Town, 25-foot lots.
Zero lot.
I'm looking at right here, we were going to rezone industrial to R2. We're gonna list resorts and cabin courts in R2,
Correct.
but we don't have a definition for resort or cabin courts. The ordinance does not define or use either of these words. So, do we wanna come up with a definition of resort and cabin court, so we can add a definition and then add it to R2?
I
Under
think this is
special
the
use
perfect
for
template
R2.
to do that. Basically, that's what we're saying,
Yes.
yeah. This
All
is
right, give me a
perfect template.
definition.
So multiple
Denise,
dwelling units.
Yeah, might even be in our,
I can give it.
Definitions.
Denise, it could be in the definitions.
Mark, your master planner might give you the proper words so you can spin off those in time.
I'll talk to Denise, yeah,
yeah, I just need
Yeah,
to roll on
master
it quick,
plan
cause
or
I gotta have
definitely.
this in by Thursday.
yeah. Let
All
me-
right,
Let me follow up on that, and
and
then,
we should actually, well, let's go a little bit faster here, because, following up, are you gonna get me a vote to put
We're
it?
gonna have office and activities, right? Wouldn't a resort have an office or activity or a general store or something along that line?
Not
it
necessarily.
could.
Might even wanna just take a look at some of the other township zonings, especially, just like, Otsego County.
Yeah.
There's a lot of resorts on Otsego Lake, there's a lot of them on Lake Charlevoix, yada, yada. I'm sure some of them, somebody's gotta have a definition of what some of them are using.
Yeah, cause a resort would have
We should
let's say a
use the state.
restaurant on premise, or
Do we have a state
a
one?
souvenir shop,
I
or
don't, Denise does.
boat
I'm sure
rentals,
that.
or stuff like
Yeah.
that. I just
Yeah.
wanna make sure those are in there
Well,
if we're
well,
going.
Well, if he goes to Denise with the state with NIMCOG, that's as good as it gets. We
Yeah,
don't have
that
to
is-
look at
it
our
is.
township.
That's right,
Yeah,
so.
I'll
Yeah,
use
I'm not an
Denise's.
attorney, I don't wanna write verbiage for that.
No, yeah, but the thing is, you don't wanna do that, you don't want a restaurant, but it should come under that definition. If you
Right.
did, or somebody else did, then that should be included. in it.
Yeah, cause that's a resort,
Right, and that's where Gordon will follow up with Denise and
gotcha.
make sure we get that language correct.
and then that'll also be published in this week's paper
Yeah.
for the October 24th.
Good.
And we'll start with, on the 24th, we'll start with Kent's project. Kind of the grease the wheels, get a feeling for how it's rolling, and then we'll roll over to your project.
So we're switching this to R2, so I can proceed? Cause I'm already, half of my property is already R2?
I would proceed south of that line.
Right, because it is, but we have to get this notice, we have to get this,
Right,
right, we have to,
okay.
But that's just for changing
I
that
would
north
say-
portion.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
well, he's saying on the.
Well,
existing
no, we have to allow resorts
On
and
the existing
On the
R2.
existing R2.
Cabin
yeah.
courts in
I see why
R2.
I shouldn't do do that,
Right.
if in fact that's where we stay.
Right.
Yeah,
Right,
so we have to allow resorts and cabin cruise in R2.
right.
Well,
Yeah,
depending on what Denise tells you.
yes, yeah, well, I'm saying, he may
Well,
not
that
wanna be
didn't-
putting footings down this week,
I wouldn't, if it was me.
yeah.
But now, okay, so even on, so with R2, okay, so you're still allowed a certain amount of buildings, huh?
Yes, correct. No, he can go ahead and start a couple buildings
Yeah,
and not be in trouble.
Right, yeah, only doing 4.
Yeah, and get your well down and stuff like that, yeah,
That'll be, the well, they were talking January, so,
yeah.
you know, that'll all be.
What about drilling in January?
oh, we've done them.
Oh, yeah,
But
it don't matter.
we don't know
The
what-
frozen ground's
Yeah, you
only
go-
at deep.
No, he goes, says as long as it's above 29 degrees, and I'm like, you get one well every 2 months up here or something, I don't know.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's above 29 most of the winter.
Right. Yeah, so even under the R2, on the overall land usage, I could put in the 4 and be fine.
Yeah, and you can, and that's, down to 600, or, 600, or you also have the economy efficiency, you only got a.
The gap
a
is
100
500 to 600, yeah.
Right, yeah,
And we'll close that gap.
close
in the
that
new
gap
ordinance.
at, yeah.
So at 680, he's okay?
Yeah,
Yeah.
More than okay.
in R2, yep.
More than okay.
Alright.
Intent,
Yep.
remember we talked, you're gonna write something?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I'm not worried about that, cause if they, Merck, or who'd you say it, the master planner? Is
Oh,
gonna,
MCOG,
MCOG is going to put the resorts
Yeah.
verbiage in,
we may already have that in our definitions.
In
I was
the
looking for,
R2.
We'll find out.
Yeah,
then
Yeah.
I have no problem, because my intentions are to do a ATV, canoe, kayak rental, a general store, something along that line, up in the front. So I'm trying to be transparent with you, saying that is my intention down the road.
Okay.
So as long as that falls under the
Yeah.
R2,
And that's,
I got no problem
that's
doing
actually a
that.
perfect definition of a resort,
Yeah.
right,
so.
yep.
Right.
Good, I guess
Perfect.
we
Do
get.
you want that handwritten intent?
Whatever you like to do.
I'm nowhere
Yeah.
near a computer.
yeah, no, handwritten's
That's what I
fine.
do all the time.
Yep, handwritten's fine,
No, we got it on video.
yeah.
Handwritten's fine. Yep, no problem. You want those back, don't you?
If I could.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys need them?
Would not hurt to have one copy here.
I can leave one.
Yeah,
That's
he
fine.
wrote notes.
I can leave
Yes.
you, I just need 1 or 2.
Yeah,
I wrote on this.
They're
one,
$4
so-
a piece, by the way.
that's,
That's how you get.
it's a minor price for you.
Yep.
I want
Minor
one
price.
percent of the board to be able to see,
Yep, you guys are good.
and that's one for me, so here's another one for you.
I memorized it.
Yeah. What's signal to the north of the south, 40,
So what you wanna do?
Oh, yeah, no problem.
What else is on the
Yeah, I
agenda?
know that.
52%.
From the POW, don't forget, you're going from and back to the POW.
Okay.
It's a 12-inch